Welcome back. So today we want to name the spaces because currently we do not know what this space is and what that space is. And traditionally you would just pick the tool, which is the text tool, to come in and name these spaces, but that is not going to be helpful because since this is a working drawing, we need something which is a bit more informational. So we need to put the name of the space, but then we also need the information like the square area, and then also information about the floor finish, stuff like that. And that is why we need to use the zone tool. So let's see how you can actually use the zone tool to achieve this information. So the first time you select this zone tool, you have a few things here which you can work with. So let's go to the zone tool here and then see what is happening in the settings. So first, to the top we have name and positioning, and we want to give it a number. So this is number 1, so we can create a number for it. For example, this is ground floor. We can say ground level space 01, yeah, because we are on the ground floor. So I'm going to make it GL01, and then what space is it? So the very first space that I want to name is this first studio. Since it is here a small kitchen and then a sleeping area, I'm going to name that space studio, such that we have only one name for the entire space. And then we need to choose a category under which it falls, and I'm going to use residential for this. Okay, and that will be it. And then below that we have the subfloor thickness. So we do not have this 100 for our design, so I think it should start at 0. Yeah, let this start at 0, and it will go all the way to -200. That's where the slab is. And then next is the floor plan representation. Let's leave this, we'll come back to it. You will see its essence because we will tamper with it later. And then below that we have the zone stamp. So this is actually what it's going to look like. You can see we already have studio. Actually, let's name this as Studio A, because we have other studios. So let's name this as Studio A, so the rest will be B, and so on and so forth. So we have Studio A, we have ground level 01 space, and then we have the area here in square meters and square millimeters. We will work on that later. And then we will have stamp text. So here you can choose what kind of text style you want to see, and as well the size here. So we'll come back to that in case the size is big or small. All right, so here is the crucial part, which is the settings, which will be displaying the information that we want to see. So under stamp display settings, we want to go to the scale we are currently using. So in my case, we will keep it at 1 to 100. So we will work on the contents which are only in 1 to 100. So you can see stuff like here. So all this stuff, we will look through it, and let's see at the content of 1 to 100 what it's being shown. So we have the zone name. So if we expand this, you can see that we have the zone name checked, and that's good for us. And then we have the zone number as well checked if we expand this thing, which is good for us. And then we have identification, which we do not need, apartment. So all this stuff, we do not need them, but for floor finish we can include it. So that's additional information which can work for us, which is here. You just check flooring and it will be added. And then after that, we will have also height values, and I think this will be important because we have a few things like at the entrance it's lower, the ground is lower, and then we have the 0 mark within the building. So maybe that will be important information, so we can have the floor level, and as well zone areas. So by default we have the measured or calculated. Yes, measured area has been provided for us. So let's see, now we need to to work with all those. So you can go ahead and get rid of these other things by pressing minus if you do not want to see them, but as long as what you need is checked, that will be do for us. So if I go back here, you can see that already this is what the stamp is going to look like. We have the name of the space, we have the number of it, we have the floor finish, which we need to work on to put in the actual floor finish, and then we have the 0 mark, which is the height from the ground, and then we have the area, the square area. So let's go in here in the settings, and in the drop down you want to look for something like the floor heights and floor finish. So let's see what's the title for the floor finish. I'm going to put FF for floor finish, and then what's the finish. They give you some options here, so you can choose parquet, tiles, screed, and for my case, for this space, I want it to be tiles. So in case you want to be a little bit specific, like for my case, I think I'm going to use porcelain tiles for the floor finish, and I do not need wall finish, I do not need ceiling finish, but I have checked floor finish level, floor level, and in this case it's going to be at 0, and that's great. And then you can choose whatever fancy marker you want to see on that thing, and then also we can look at other stuff like the area, so we can see calculated area. So here you can change the prefix, the title of measured area. I think A will work, and as well you can look on these other parameters. You can mess with them if you so wish, and here is how the information is going to be displayed. And I think here we do not have any framing, so we will work with that first option, and then just after that we have text override, and we will come back to this in a second. So let's just first put everything that we have put so far, such that we come back and do some override, and you see. And let's say hold down space bar. So if you hold down space bar, Archicad should detect this area, and then once you click, you can see that that area has been captured for that space, and then the next click will place that element. So this is what we have by default. One, it's colored, you can see it's colored blue, and then we have this text going all the way, all around. So we want to scale down that size of this text. So two things that we need to do to get rid of that color in the settings. I'm going to go Ctrl T in order to go to these settings. Before I work on this text sizes, let's just work on the floor plan display. So currently it has some color, so we can override and make sure that we do not have any color by choosing background, which is going to be just white. And then after that, we want to look at those sizes because they are way too big. So you want to go under stamp text style. We need to have them, I don't know, like half the size, maybe 1.5 or even less. And after that, we want to also, since if we say okay, let's see what that does. It makes everything small, but in my opinion, I'd like to have this name bigger, and then the rest of the things can stay small. Okay, so if I go to settings, I would like to see what that looks like. So I'm going to make these even smaller, maybe 1.2. all right, and then under this not area calculations but the settings, we were on this option, which is the text override. I would like to override the zone, the zone name. You can see I'm overriding the zone name, and let's make it a thicker blue and make it 2 point. I think 2 will be fine. And then we can choose the font, and in my case, let's see, I think something like that will work for me. Some other font size, and you can already see how that looks so much better. So we got rid of the blue color, and then now we have overridden this such that it is readable, so you can see that that's this text, the name of the space, then you can see the number, the zone number, you can see the floor finish, you can see the floor, the height from the ground, and the square area. First, now we need to get rid of these square millimeters. I don't think it's a good idea to have square millimeters. Perhaps square meters is a much better option. So in order to get square millimeters, we want to go to document, and we want to go to options rather, and say project preferences, and we have dimensions. So in dimensions, we want to change from, as this thing comes in, from square meters, which is this area, to square meter, from square millimeter to square meter. And since it's square meters, maybe two decimal places will do for us. So once we do that, you can see that this changes to 18.88 square meters, which is very good for us. And as well, we want to now label the rest of the spaces using this kind of thing. Right, so with it, I'm going to pick that zone and then take it all somewhere else. So this time it's going to be space 2, and it will be Studio B. All right, and I think the floor finish will be the same, and the height will be the same. So hold down space bar and click into this space, and click again to place the naming. All right, that's looking beautiful. And then next we go to the C, space C. I think I'm going to make it capital C. All right, and then we have GL03, which is fine. Space click into this space and place it in there, which is kind of cool. I don't know what just happened. It just created some weird space in there. Let me do that again. I'm going to right alt click to pick these parameters because I don't want it to be spaced out. Let's make it C and make, I think this is supposed to be capital C, and then this is supposed to be 3, that third space. So hold down space bar, click into this space and click to place, and it does the same thing. Well, it's none of my concern for now. We can always go in and see what just happened to that. And then as well, let's make this the fourth space be space D. Hold down space, click, and we place this in there, and we will be sure to use these elements in order to space this stuff in the right spaces that you want. And those are the 4 spaces, and now we want to look at the spaces in here. So let me pick this one. I don't know, for some reason I do want it to stay like so, and let's try again. Let's have WC here, because we want it to be a WC, and the category is now going to change since it's a washroom. Perhaps it's a technical equipment area. And in the settings, we want to also get rid of the porcelain tiles. I think the floor finish, you can always change it. So let me make it this time, perhaps it will be ceramic. I say okay, space click in there and place it there, and that actually worked. It didn't spread out the wording, which is good, especially for such a space. And then again, we want to go ahead and have WC, the second one, and everything else stays the same, and space click and do that. And before we continue, I think that these can use a different fill. If we go to the settings, we can actually override the floor plan to make sure that we are seeing like a pattern. Let's say 25 by 25 grid and use a light gray. All right, so now you should get something pretty interesting. All right, so in order to carry on the same thing, I'm going to alt click to pick that, and you can see that these spaces actually, so we had already GL 1 2 3 4, so this should have been GL 5, and then this should have been GL 6, and then now we want it to be GL 7, and it will be a WC as well. So space click in here and place that text in there, and that's looking pretty good. And then as well, we do the same thing for the last washroom. Space click to place this stuff in here, and there you have it. And I'm going to see if I can fix this such that it doesn't spread stuff out. All right, just by alt clicking here, making this 3 and making this C, and oh god, this thing should work now. Space click in here, and I space click, and it worked now. So I do the same for this spice and make it full and make it D. Right, and there you are. So much better. Of course, we also need to label these spaces. Like here we have a stair, so like we said, so we say stair, we call it a stairwell, and the category here is going to change to communication and access. It's for access, so we have a stair there, and perhaps this is space number 9. Okay, space number 9, and then we need to change to this polygonal such that we are able to draw our own shape in this space. So going to go in here, get this corner and that one, and the one here, hold down control, so because I need it to be rectangular. And I think the better idea, let me escape, the better idea could be that one. Yeah, so we can choose that one to do that. Yeah, so much better. And yeah, we have ourselves good here, although I do not think the stairs are going to have a porcelain finish. Perhaps they would have a wood finish, so let's add that here on the settings, and finishes and heights, we change this to wood, and that is looking great. Okay, that is awesome. And just after that we have the 10th spice, which is going to be a lobby for that stair. So perhaps all this spice, so we will take this all up and we will name it as lobby, or the waiting space. And then at the entrances as well, we need some sort of nomenclature. So 11th space will be entry, yeah, communication and access. And this time this is going to be -600, which I hope should be the street level. And we will come in and name that, and name that like so. and as well name this one entry. All right, that's really good. And of course, the same spaces are going to be on the, this is the same procedure that I'm going to go ahead and name the spaces which are above. So, and I'll go ahead and do the first floor now.